Have you ever considered how a laugh can disarm a tense room, or how a gentle joke can pry open minds that were once tightly shut? Behind each chuckle lies a subtle force capable of softening hardened beliefs and nudging entire societies toward acceptance, or even revolution. From the whispered satire of court jesters nipping at the heels of absolute monarchs, to the underground comedians risking their safety to mock unjust regimes, humor has quietly shaped minds and bent the arc of history. It invites us to question what we think we know and to see our own contradictions laid bare. Picture this. It's late afternoon in Elizabethan London. The sun is still hanging above the Thames, and crowds from every social class pack into the open-air Globe Theatre. There's the pungent smell of street food in the air, and an excited buzz ripples through the onlookers. At once, the actors burst onto the stage, jesters, lovers, royals, and the crowd erupts into laughter at the witty banter and slapstick comedy. You have peasants leaning on wooden railings, shoulder to shoulder with merchants. You have wealthy ladies quietly giggling behind decorative fans. For a brief, shining moment, class lines blur under the spell of shared amusement. That's the first way humor changed the world. It binds people together, crossing social divides to cultivate a common identity. Shakespeare's comedies gave the English an art form they could all take pride in, weaving laughter into the very fabric of a nation's cultural soul. In these moments, we see a triad of humor, social bonding, and cultural identity at play. Call it coexistence. Humor is the bridge, social bonding is the path, and a strengthened cultural identity is the destination. When audiences howled at the mischievous escapades of A Midsummer Night's Dream, or the comedic tangles in Much Ado About Nothing, it wasn't just about entertainment. It was about thousands of people feeling connected. Did they all agree on the politics of the time? Probably not. Did they share the same economic or religious views? Absolutely not. But for those moments, they were one, linked by laughter. And that unity stuck around, shaping the collective sense of Englishness. This triad has repeated across the globe, from the back alleys of ancient Athens where Aristophanes ridiculed everyday life, to modern comedy clubs in big cities where a diverse crowd can laugh at shared absurdities. Laughter is a universal handshake, forging a common ground. Now let's jump a few centuries and an ocean over to the vibrant heart of Harlem in the 1920s. Imagine a bustling jazz club with lights glowing in purples and reds, the hum of a saxophone dancing through the night air. On stage, amid the smoky atmosphere, stands Zora Neale Hurston or Langston Hughes, reading out a witty take on everyday life in Black America. People are exhausted from working long hours under oppressive social structures, but here in this moment they feel alive, lifting burdens with laughter and mocking the injustices that weigh them down. That's humor fueling resilience. The comedic style in their literary works and performances wasn't just to amuse, it was to empower. Jokes about segregated public spaces, parodies of racist stereotypes, these transformed frustration into agency. This comedic lens on hardship galvanized the Black community and built a collective will to tackle inequality. Soon, those seeds contributed to the civil rights movement that changed laws and hearts across the United States. The triad here, humor leading to resilience, resilience spawning social change, and social change re-inspiring new forms of humor. Because once people taste that empowering laughter, they crave it whenever life gets too bleak. Over and over, you see humor stepping in to help communities endure the unendurable, and eventually, to stand up and demand better. Now zip back in time a bit to the late 1700s. Spread out on a wooden tavern table, you see a pamphlet with a cartoon snake cut into pieces, each segment labeled with a colony's initials. Beneath it, the stark words, "Join or die." A hush falls over the onlookers. Then someone chuckles. Another tilts the page to get a better view and laughs a little louder. You realize the drawing is half joke, half warning. It's Ben Franklin's famous cartoon. In that single image, Franklin turned what could have been a dry political argument, "We colonies should unite against British rule," into a visual pun that resonated through every pub and parlor in America. It's an early example of how humor can succinctly package a complex political idea, energizing people who might otherwise never engage with the issue. And look at the effect. The cartoon became a symbolic rallying cry for independence. The triad here is humor, political critique, and social reform, or what we might call a causal chain. The humor critiques authority, that critique foments ideas of reform, and once humor is absent, the movement can lose its spark. We see parallels today in late-night satire, memes that quickly go viral, and comedic monologues that dissect government policies. When laughter exposes hypocrisy, social change often follows. It's 1940, and in a packed movie theater, the bright flicker of the projector illuminates the audience's faces. Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator is on screen. A man in the front row might have lost his job in the Great Depression. Behind him, a woman might have lost family in Europe's spreading war. But for a moment, in Chaplin's exaggerated portrayal of Adenoid Hinkle, a parody of Adolf Hitler, everyone is caught off guard by a feeling they didn't expect: laughter. And that laughter is quickly followed by genuine empathy. They see the cruelty of fascism laid bare and realize how fragile democracy can be. This triad is humor, connection, and empathy. Humor is the unexpected door that swings open to let empathy rush in. Chaplin's comedic approach allowed viewers to see the dictator's ridiculous side, a perspective that was both dangerously subversive and deeply humanizing of those who suffered under tyranny. Once hearts are softened by shared laughter, they can better unite in compassion and action against injustice. Now picture the global stage of stand-up comedy today. One night, you're in Toronto watching Russell Peters riff on the cultural quirks of South Asian households. The next morning, that clip of his set is trending online in India, the UK, and the Middle East, millions of views racking up within hours. People from vastly different backgrounds are all laughing at the same jokes about immigrant parents, accent misunderstandings, and cross-cultural faux pas. Suddenly, individuals who may never have spoken to each other are in on the same comedic references. Humor becomes a passport, letting us slip inside another culture's worldview. This triad is humor, cultural exchange, and global awareness. Because once you laugh at the same joke, you're less likely to see the teller as other. You feel more connected, more curious, and that fosters a bigger conversation about the world we share. Finally, imagine sneaking into a dimly lit underground cabaret in East Berlin before the wall came down. The stage is small, the audience is tense, and an edgy comedian is poking fun at the Stasi. People gasp, some elbow each other nervously, then the tension breaks into laughter. In that laughter, they taste freedom. It's as though for a brief second, the comedian has chipped away at the fear dominating their daily lives. You find similar stories in apartheid South Africa, where satirical comic strips like Madame and Eve cleverly skewered racist policies. Or in Soviet-era Poland, where jokes about long bread lines were traded quietly amongst friends. Once you can laugh at oppression, you see it for what it is, paper-thin, vulnerable to truth. Humor fosters the spirit of dissent, fueling solidarity. That's the triad of humor, dissent, and eventual liberation. It's a feedback loop. Humor reveals cracks in the armor of tyranny. People become emboldened, and the system, at least psychologically, begins to crumble. From the cobblestone streets of Elizabethan London to the smoky jazz clubs of Harlem, from Ben Franklin's witty cartoons to Chaplin's evocative parodies, from cross-cultural stand-up to underground cabarets, humor has always been more than a quick laugh. It's a transformer, a unifier, a subtle but unstoppable tide that can erode the foundations of oppression, stigma, and division. In each historical anecdote, we see triads at work: humor bridging divides, forging social bonds, and shaping cultural identity. Humor building resilience, prompting social change, and evolving as society transforms. Humor critiquing power, spurring reform, and losing force when absent. Humor unlocking empathy through connection. Humor encouraging global awareness by crossing cultural lines. Humor igniting liberation by defanging oppression. So ask yourself, where does humor live in your life? What do you choose to laugh at? And with whom do you share that laughter? Because that choice, the choice to smile or chuckle or burst into laughter, can do far more than brighten your mood. It can seed connection, challenge injustice, and build empathy in ways that transform the very world around us. Thank you. And please, keep laughing.